Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kaggot. This is our cat's gay. I'm the gay. This is Jupiter, the Jew. That's why we're Kaggot. You figure it out. Anyway, so today
It's very offensive when you figure it out, and I don't
it
believe it.
is it is offensive and it's funny. Like most things, it's offensive and funny. Funny or offensive, something like that. So, today we are going to talk about a subject that is not really being widely discussed. You'll find little flare ups on the internet here and there, but no one is really going to talk very much about it because they are afraid. We are talking about the rise of anti Semitism in the black community in America specifically, but it's,
Specifically,
yeah.
that community.
hmm Now, there is a rise in anti Semitism across Europe and a lot of other craziness going everywhere. But in America, it seems to be pretty localized to the African Americans. I don't really understand why. I mean, I have a couple of theories, but I'm going to just listen and see what my friend here has to say about it because he is well versed in these greater than I am. And let's see what we can figure out. So,
So one of the first things Katz asked me was if Iran had to do with this because they're the leading state sponsor of terror. And something I said to him was, it's actually, and it is Western propaganda to believe that the state sponsor, the world's leading state sponsor of terror is Iran. We just chose to side with Saudi Arabia. And we're talking about Islamic terror. China is obviously the leading state sponsor. But we chose to side with Saudi Arabia, so our media, who's totally bought off, is saying Iran, leading state sponsor of terror, and they repeat it over and over again until it's in your head saying, "Well, everyone knows that they're the leading state sponsor of terror."
I got accused by one of my Twitter mutuals of reciting neocon propaganda. Asked how it tasted, and I guess he was correct. I was actually spouting off propaganda, and I didn't know it.
It is propaganda. It is. It was devised right when we basically signed on with the oil barons and the mullahs, and or rather, when we signed on with the oil barons and the mullahs were very hesitant to join with us to begin with, but we knew we could never make any semblance of an alliance with them. Saudi Arabia at least had a stable government that we could deal with, and they hated Iran, and Iran hated Saudi Arabia, so we chose one. We
Because
chose the richest one.
Wahhabism is actually quite different, isn't it, from the version of Islam that Iran practices, isn't it?
Yeah, and Wahhabism is what's decimating Europe, actually, and this is why I say it's Iran's not the leading state sponsor of terror. If you're saying Iran's the leading state sponsor of terror because they've made the most kills, then yes,
Hmm.
they are. Other than Saudi Arabia apparently doing 9/11, I'm not even going to go into that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I really don't. I'm not a
It
conspiracy theorist. I'm not sure. I've seen so many different sides, and a lot of it seems probable. So I don't know.
So when we compare, like, the difference between Iranian Islamic terror and Saudi Arabian Islamic terror, isn't it sort of like comparing salmonella to E. coli? They're both
Or botulism,
destructive.
exactly.
Yeah, they're both.
Bingo.
It's just like, what strain do you want to use? They have different. They infest
Do
different
you want me
areas.
to? Do you want me to put cyanide in your cereal or anthrax?
Hmm. Which one has the best flavor?
Well, it depends. Cocoa Puffs go really well with anthrax. My brother Salamini told me that before we
Ooh,
put a missile through his.
poor Salamini. Um,
Uh,
Now,
rest.
yeah, regardless of whether or not it's Iran or Saudi Arabia, who are both pretty much equally terrible in different ways, I do not feel sorry for this man being gone. Now, should I
No,
feel sorry?
and we'll go into the war, but
Yes, but
let's
yeah,
hold off on the war
let's
because
let's come back to our original flight. So why are African Americans going crazy, or at least being documented more being crazy about Jewish people, like that black woman on I think it was New York public transportation just going off after the Orthodox Jew, like in his
Or
visible
the or
Jew
the
wear.
woman or the woman who not only she beat up these Jewish girls, Orthodox Jewish girls, got let out on a no cash bail, did the same thing the minute she got out. Within 1 week, she was let out 2 times. Now she's back in jail for a third time for doing it
Yeah, how is this woman not locked up?
because New York, Soros, and people like that have embedded these district attorneys. And this is true. This isn't a conspiracy. Google it. He funded their entire campaigns. Look at Baltimore. Look at New York. It's a fact. Google it. It's public record.
Yeah,
Soros did fund these people. He has a plan for America. He's done it. He's been world building his entire career, and he is doing this. But he put into place all these district attorneys in New York and places like that,
yeah,
and they believe in
conservative
criminal
resurgence.
justice reform.
Well, I think it's
What?
the YouTube channel Conservative Resurgence. I think it's called. Like he's detailed
You know
that pretty well.
CR?
I love him. He's like I don't know. He's like Johnny Cash.
One of the
I
greatest voices to ever grace YouTube. The man's voice is a melody. It's
I
like,
love this. I love listening to him talk. I haven't yet really disagreed with him too much. I'm sure I would
no,
on something, but he's pretty spot on. So hey, CR, we love you. Notice
yeah,
us, please,
he
senpai.
knows.
No.
He knows.
um,
I'll send him this. I doubt he'll watch it, but
that's right. I forgot
you
you
know,
know him.
well, just not know him. I've never met him, but
You,
we've
you're
talked many
familiar.
times. I was one of it's
Anyway, we're
small world,
we're
small YouTube
fanboying.
world.
So
That's my man. But anyway, I was one of the original. I think I asked him, but I had to have been in the first 20 people to ever donate to his channel.
oh,
But so
cool.
yeah, I don't remember
That's
the time I've ever disagreed with him. But my point is this: Islam. Look at Brigitte Gabrielle.
oh, I love
She
her.
and the State Department, everyone loves her, discovered the Plan for America, which was the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the oldest terrorist organization in the world, and that's all you need to know. Don't worry about Iran. Don't worry about Saudi Arabia. This is what people get so confused of with Wahhabism, with Shiite, with Sunni. Don't worry about any of that. Worry about this. The Muslim Brotherhood funds more than anybody. Their money comes from both Iran and Saudi Arabia. They
That's
want to go to the
disturbing.
caliphate. They target minority communities, especially in the prison systems. That's how they've basically taken over Europe with terror because they bring in not just minorities who already feel, you know, grievances against
Disenfranchised
their
and
country,
mhm,
but they radicalize them in prison so that they tell
that's a
them.
great place to do
Meanwhile,
it.
meanwhile, Islam hates black people. They see them as subhuman. And if that gets us kicked off YouTube, forget it. I don't care. But
I've heard,
those aren't my words. Those are their words. It's
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 not
in
even
their
the first
book.
time I've heard that. Honestly, like this isn't.
Look it up in the book.
I
YouTube.
forget.
It's in
Someone
their book.
someone told me once that like the in Arab countries they have a word for black Muslims and it has something like toy Muslim or something
Yeah,
like I.
it's I almost just hit the wrist. But it's I'm not gonna say it's a funny word. It is funny though,
In
because
a
here's the thing.
black
It's
humor. Oh God, not that kind of black, but like
right.
it is a darkly okay. I have to stop using variations. It sounds like I have a preoccupation. It is macabre. Let's put it that way. Like it
Yeah,
is
it's
gallows
so
humor.
like they're honestly it's worse than slave because at least slaves have the chance of uprising of lifting themselves from
You
bondage.
cannot be a slave at some point.
But when you're in mental slavery and have been so thoroughly manipulated by an ideology that you think that you're part of the gang, when meanwhile, behind your back, they're all laughing at you. It's like my favorite headline of all time. And yes, it turned out to be a joke, but it's my favorite headline, my favorite like onion type story. Overweight German man joins ISIS and becomes and is made to become a sex slave.
Oh, I
And
remember
it's
that story. That was actually quite sad.
well, it's not true. It didn't happen, but
Wait, what? I saw the interview. Really?
no, it's not true.
Oh, God damn it.
It's not true.
God, I
But
am just an
but the
idiot then.
point is that's what it is. And they don't give a fuck about black people. They don't care about anything other than the global caliphate. And they talk about using words like tolerance against us and the West's love and obsession with diversity. But what they do is they embed themselves into our prison systems, into our ghettos, into our smaller communities. And you have people like Farrakhan and people like that get tons of money. And a lot of people, I don't know about Farrakhan, probably Farrakhan, who join into these groups, especially the Black Hebrew Israelites. A lot of their leaders and Black Lives Matter were paid off by Muslim groups. They don't believe any of it. They don't care. Here's $1 million. You're a community leader. Make everyone hate America, white people and Jews, and go spread the gospel. And they do.
Now,
And they're
why?
well funded. They get given a mosque. They get, and that's how it happens. And the rise of anti-Semitism worldwide is a thing. But I'm so sick of people like Ben Shapiro. It's funny. I made a tweet yesterday. The only person standing up actually for Jewish lives are people who aren't Jewish, like Colin Flaherty. He calls it out by its name. It's not anti-Semitism. It's black on Jewish crime. Black on Jewish crime. When you say anti-Semitism, or when you say words, he always says this, like teens. Teens rioted in a mall. Teens shot up a
Ur-
school. Teens.
urban youth.
But no, but the new one is teens or
Yeah,
something. Even urban youth implies black.
true. Yeah, anything with
That's
urban
white liberal
implies.
for black.
But yeah,
They don't even
teens
say
have
that
become.
anymore.
Yeah, they. I have been seeing that, like when they had that footage that happened in actually in the Bay Area, not terribly far from where I am, where they those teens, quote unquote, robbed the store, just like destroying tables and grabbing a bunch of clothes, and like there were several incidences. Like I think those are actually two different ones, but yeah, just teens. And it's like
Teens.
okay,
It's always
yeah,
teens.
always
It's
teens.
always teens.
Those
And
damn teenagers.
they used to say at least, and this is when I say they used, I mean like 10 years ago, Colin Flaherty was on Fox News. Colin Flaherty was on CNN. He's got quotes in his book by Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell. He was mainstream. But now the fact that he's still the same old Colin saying black youths are doing this, period.
You
He's
can't
outcast.
say black.
You can't say black. How are you going to fix the problem? When you say anti-Semitism, oh, a bunch of anti-Semites shot up another synagogue. People think, oh, white violence,
They think,
Nazis.
yeah,
It's not.
they think skinheads or like anti-Semitism is a vague kind of disembodied thing, which has historical connotations, but it's not specific. It's not visceral. It's not. I'm not going to say it's not real, but it's not concrete because it's
Bingo.
vague. It's like when you say racism. What is racism? It can be just about
Right.
anything, particularly today when everything is racism, which means nothing is racism, but that's another discussion. So, yeah, like why is the black community and also some I believe Latinos in some cases, but it seems like it's mostly the black community that is just being really radicalized against Judaism. Is this because there's a rise in Islam amongst black people or because like Louis Farrakhan, for instance, he is I don't know a whole lot about him other than the fact that he's, this very loud, very just gross individual that says a lot of weird things. Um, and a lot of black celebrities seem to really idolize him despite the kind of toxic attitudes that he displays.
That should tell you a lot, by the way, that the fact that so many mainstream black celebrities love him. But here's why. And I love that you brought up first that the Hispanic community is not committing mass anti Semitic attacks specifically.
No,
Here's why. Is it Islam? I can't say for sure, but here's how it works. Islam wants to take over. They don't want me. They don't want a Jew to convert and help them. They don't want a cat, a gay white guy to convert. They'd love to use you, though. So what they do is they embed themselves in certain movements like Black Lives Matter, like the Hotep movement, like the, a lot of the really deep black ghettos. Now, take something like the Hispanic community. Why aren't they doing it? Because they've taken over Compton through immigration and breeding rates. They're taking over tons of ghettos and murdering black people in the streets. Black people have been getting lit up in Compton for like years now, and no one cares. Lit up by Hispanic people. But are
That's
the
interesting.
Hispanic people targeting Jews? No. Why? Because Islam can't embed themselves. Say what you will about the Hispanic community, they're deeply rooted in Christianity and Catholicism. For
Yep.
you to tell them that, see, the ones that don't have, that aren't Catholic and Christian are like the MS-13, their credo is rape, kill, control type thing.
And those are like aliens, basically. I mean, the most literal sense. Like they're like barely human. I mean, look at them. Like
Right.
they're covered in
And they don't
tattoos.
have religion and they don't want leaders.
Oh, they have a religion. It's death and suffering. But
Exactly. But believe me, Islam ain't embedding itself anytime soon in MS-13.
yeah.
If Muhammad comes over to the MS-13 gang house and says, be a soldier for Allah, blow yourself up. This last thing Muhammad's going to see is the same thing Soleimani saw or al Baghdadi saw. You
Well,
know,
maybe
he'll
not
get
the
lit up like
exact
the
same
4th of
thing. It
July.
might in MSN 13 case it might be a little bit more colorful, but yeah, I'm just after you said this, I'm just picturing like someone like like Jorge trying to tell his family like, hey, I found the truth. I've converted to Allah. I've become a Muslim, and then I'm just picturing his little abuelita coming out and just beating the shit out of him with a rosary.
Right. You
Being
come
like,
in there, you come in, they have the really stereotypical vinyl picture of Jesus,
mm-hmm,
the really simple but tasteful but like religious crucifixes on the wall. Maybe there's
mm-hmm.
a Christ figure on the crucifix, maybe there isn't, but it's on the wall.
To say
And
nothing of the Virgin Mary everywhere.
right, and you
You have
come in and you
dishonored the
say,
Virgin of Guadalupe.
Abuela.
Look in your tortilla. Look, the Virgin is crying. Oh my God,
But
demonetized.
the point is, the black community has been convinced that not only, and you know what my favorite trick is that the Islamists pull, and when I say Islamists, people like, there's a lot of people that say Islamists, like Douglas Murray, Seb Gorka, people like that. They say Islamists. I usually don't. I like to paint with a broad brush. Islam, when they embed themselves into these groups, they'll say things to black people like, Muhammad was black. He wanted to free all the black people. Look here in Medina when he freed all the black people, which also both of them are a lie. Obviously, Muhammad was Arab. Obviously, Medina, the slaves, they were enslaved by Muhammad after he took the city.
Who do you
He
think
was
brought
like
them
the
here?
biggest slave driver of all time. Now,
They're like, isn't slavery actually built into Islam?
yeah, even at the very even when there's not slavery in a town, like when Islam will take over a town, you can pay a tithe based, not a tithe, a you pay to, if you're Jewish or something, you go to their local official
Oh,
and you
yeah,
pay.
they have a word for this. I
Demis.
remember. Yeah, that's it. Yes.
And so that it is slavery. It's slavery, but they understand also that productive members, like when they take a Christian town or a Jewish town, they understand that these people can make a lot more money for them doing their business than they can in the fields. But when they take African towns, Google it. There's more slavery right now in the Middle East, right now, today, this very minute, than there was during the entire intercontinental South Pacific slave trade.
Yeah, I have actually read about how there are a lot of people all over the world, in fact, not just in Africa, but especially in Africa, where they think they're going to places like, well, they're going to places like Saudi Arabia or other Arab countries, and they think they're going to be working as like housekeepers, something like that. It's like, well, yeah, you'll be a housekeeper. You'll just be chained to the floor. Um, it,
The house of Allah.
Allah.
Oh, durka, durka.
Mm-hmm. We're so offensive. I love it.
How dare you?
I,
That was my dog who just said that, YouTube,
Mhm.
by the way, on
YouTube,
both
yeah,
ends of
it's actually it's Magga the dog that's doing the satirical call to prayer. She, she's such a talented actress.
the thing about it is they have such help. And I used to think that there was a grand conspiracy that the liberals who have sided with them, are paid off. But it's kind of like when they used to say back when Trump was filling stadiums in like 2015, 2016, that everyone there was paid to be there. My
Hmm.
father and I were at a couple of those rallies. We never got paid. No one got paid. And if Trump did pay 20,000 people to show up at every stadium and stand out in the cold, he'd be broke within fucking
E-
a year.
even Trump doesn't have that much money.
No, no one has that much money. But the point is, it's that kind of conspiracy where I was thinking, but then when they started accusing all of us of being paid protesters, I started to realize, no, it's the Fed because liberals don't care about Jews anymore and they hate Christians. So why do they side with them? And it's the fetishization of people of color. It's their religion.
Anti-whiteness, like flagellating themselves, like, "Oh, I'm so terrible. Oh, I'm pathetic. Oh, look at what we've done to these people. Oh, they're so much better than me."
They're the true believers. I mean, they're the evangelical, not evangelical. What's the one where they were like the Inquisitioners, like the people who just believed that the only way they could save themselves was just to follow blindly.
The
And
fundamentalists.
well, yeah, but fundamentalists in all religions, but this specific strain of Christianity was just the only way they could ever really get to heaven was just flagellating themselves in front of all of society.
Well,
That's what liberalism is.
yeah, it really is. Oh, no, I'm really worried. I mean, now, do you think is there more of it? I think I asked this earlier. Or is it just that we're seeing more of it? Like, because people aren't talking about it, but we're certainly seeing more evidence of it,
Of what?
of rising anti-Semitism in the black community. Like, is it worse now, or are we just seeing more egregious examples of it?
I know I'm a broken record. I know. Daddy knows. Everyone calm down. I'm a broken record. I'm fine with that. So this is just the 2013 copy. So this was, almost a decade ago.
I don't know what it is, but I'm looking forward.
If Chaim Amalek, an alias for New York video blogger Luke Ford, had his way, no one would know that mobs of black people are attacking and beating and robbing Jews in the New York area, or that they shout anti Semitic epithets, or that they target Jews because they don't fight back, or that it's been going on for a while, and that even Al Sharpton got in on it.
Now, what book is this from? White Girl Bleeds a Lot. White Girl Bleed a Lot.
Colin Flaherty, this was a New York Times bestseller. In the Crown Heights riot, Al Sharpton said, "Tell them kites." Well, he said, "Tell them Jews," but later on he said, "Tell them kites." Uh, there was another quote. He said, "Tell them Jews pin their yarmulkes on and come see me." Crown Heights is an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. Al Sharpton in the Crown Heights riots burned stores, beat Jewish people to death with gangs of roaming black people. It's always been there. But Islam saw that, and see, the problem is, a long time ago, a lot of these Jewish neighborhoods were positioned right next to black neighborhoods. And Jews got there obviously later than black people. Black people have been in this country for hundreds of years. Jews have. But the Jews were becoming affluent and their neighborhoods were flourishing. Now, because of that, there was a lot of resentments. And when black people would try to move over about a mile into the nicer areas of town, and Jews, obviously, nicer neighborhoods like to expand, the rents started going up, and their leaders who have been robbing and decimating their communities, the black leaders have been just they were robbing. They like
Like that
Al
dude in
Sharpton.
Baltimore.
Right. I mean, they exactly. They were just totally depleting their society while putting it all on Whitey, putting it all on the Jewish man. They would say, well, it's because the rent's too high, blah, blah, blah. It's because of the Jews. And that fomented a lot of the hatred. But it's been around for a long time. But Islam, which is a well funded, like Islamists, especially like terrorists, it's a well-funded ideology from across the seas, and they survey countries and see where the weak spots are and where there's
That's
short
interesting.
fuses that they can ignite,
So you're
and
saying
they
that
start the black community.
you're saying that black anti-Semitism is it's not something that they've been infected with by an outside ideology. It's an exploit that Islamic organizations saw and decided to use.
Exactly, that's
Okay.
exactly right.
Now, I didn't know about, well, I may have heard about it, but I didn't think about the historical tensions of different neighborhoods. And that's an interesting point, particularly in places like New York, where this is happening. Like you get these sort of generational memories of resentment and just inherited prejudices that people don't necessarily remember. Now, I'm gonna ask a controversial question here. But is there historically any truth to Jewish communities being, I don't want to just the anti-blackness of, like, were Jewish communities resistant to black people entering their community or mingling with them, historically speaking?
Certainly,
Okay.
certainly.
So there's a small, then this is in no way, shape, or form a justification, but there is a small grain of truth to some of the madness that
No,
took
there's
place there.
truth to both sides.
Mm,
There's truth to both sides. They both had their points. I'll give you an example. Pittsburgh for a long time had, well, right. So CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, is blocks away from where I live. Well, a mile away from where I live. And they started importing Asian students in mass. I mean, it probably has one of the highest rates of Asian students of any school. And so Asians started flocking here. And so the per capita rates of Jews got stunted. But for a while, we had either the second or the third largest amount of Jews per capita than anywhere in the world outside of Israel, in Squirrel Hill, where I live. There were two neighborhoods previously called Stanton Heights and the Hill District. The Hill District is now by far the most dangerous neighborhood in Pittsburgh. It's highest murder rate. It's our ghetto. Like, we have a lot of different bad neighborhoods, but it's our, like, Chicago.
it's your Oakland.
Yeah. And the Hill District is the most historic Jewish neighborhood. It's when all the Jews, when they first moved to Pittsburgh, that's where all of them lived. When the city started building public housing and busing into the Hill District, Jews started getting robbed, raped, and murdered for the first time. These things were unheard of in this neighborhood. Jewish neighborhoods have some of the lowest crime rates of any neighborhoods, period, for any culture. And so when they left there, they went to a place called Stanton Heights, and the same thing happened. And so all the Jews fled again. Now they're in Squirrel Hill. So when, for a while there, in the 70s and the 80s, and then the 90s especially, when blacks tried to rent in Squirrel Hill, Jews were like, sorry, but we're just,
Been here before. We don't want to do it
yeah,
again.
like, sorry, guys, but it's done. Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 365 days a year.
So why do they keep trying to build public housing developments in Jewish neighborhoods?
Well,
Well,
they do that. They do that to every community. It's not just
mm,
Jewish neighborhoods. That's what I'm saying. Like, I hate to always promote the same guys. You, John Ward, and Colin Flaherty. But let me tell you something. This book, White Girl Bleed a Lot, and Colin's other book, Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, you will just see, and especially his podcast, which he does every day, the fact that he can highlight an hour plus every day in a podcast of black crime that day against non-black people usually says that there's a problem.
Definitely.
Now, I mean, Katz, if you and I had to come up with one single topic and talk about it for the rest of our lives, our whole careers, just you and me, for an hour plus every day while also writing 2 New York Times best-selling books about it, do you think we could achieve that?
I would be hard pressed.
There's only one topic that you can really do it on. And so it's not just Jewish communities. Everywhere they install these urban development projects, they call them now, they're projects, public housing, Section 8, the towns,
Just fall
the
apart.
neighborhoods, they fall
Yeah.
apart.
So yeah, it's interesting. In a town not too far from where I live, it used to be considered the nicer part of the East Bay. Not nice, but it was, there were a couple of troubled suburbs, and then there was this one, and it was considered nicer. And then about the time I was buying my house, we were looking in that town, and we just weren't able to because the market had just crashed, and so we couldn't get the investors kept buying all the houses before we could get them in our price range because I was
Right.
poor. Well, so we ended up buying in the nearby city, which used to have the worst reputation, but the previous city, I know this is confusing, but I'm just not going to give away too many landmarks. Well, no, fuck it, I'm just going to say it. Nearby city of Antioch, which used to be the nicer city, is just completely fallen apart, and it is full of Section 8 housing that it never used to have. And when that happened, Antioch went from being a relatively, okay, lower income, mostly white city with, whites and Hispanics, but then they started bussing in overflow from Richmond and Oakland and all these
Of
other, and
whites and Hispanics?
um, funny enough, not. And it's interesting how the murder rate and the crime in Antioch has just spiraled out of control to the point where
Really?
I am so glad that I don't live in Antioch, even though I was going to live in Antioch.
Can I focus on something? By the way, that it's sad. It's just that the story's a dime a dozen. Everyone if you ask anyone with an honest heart and honest mind,
This is not new.
any any decent, honest human being will tell you they know a neighborhood just like what you're talking about. There were all sorts of minorities there. And no, we weren't rich. Like my barber's in Stanton Heights because I lived in Highland Park. They're the same thing, just about. They're on the border. And he's the best barber in town. 15 shekels and you fucking, he's Italian, it's not
I love
shekels.
that he accepts shekels. Yeah.
Yeah. But he has the same thing, and his shop's falling apart. He gets robbed all the time, and he won't leave. He's one of the last Italians. It was an Italian and Jewish neighborhood, Stanton Heights. That was it. Italians and Jews, and they were poor. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't Beverly Hills. This is like low income Pittsburgh. These are working class or mill workers, steel
I,
workers. This
I love how
isn't
people forget that there's such a thing as like poor white and poor Jewish neighborhoods. Like just because you're
right.
like, despite what South Park has told, not all Jews are born with gold around their necks.
Most aren't. In my neighborhood, I mean, I live in the best neighborhood on earth because we all have shared values. But believe me, a lot, especially the Orthodox, they're poor as all hell. This isn't New York where there's the diamond, in the district. But anyway, so it was poor. It was dirt poor. He was dirt poor. He's still not dirt poor, but he's poor. But it was a poor Italian and Jewish neighborhood. He's one of the last white-skinned humans, either Jewish or Italian or Christian, there. Definitely the last shop owner. And he would tell me about how his father was a mill worker, his grandfather worked in the coal mines. They used to only, like be able to use coal mine credits to the company. They didn't even give them money. They were poor, but there was no crime. Poor, poor, no
Hmm.
crime.
Yeah, poor but safe.
One, one single, one single demographic moves in. Poor, crime. It's not rocket science. You can look at it historically. It's hard to see these days because there aren't a lot of poor Italian, poor Jewish neighborhoods left. Because a lot of them try their best to move out of these places because when you have a poor Jewish neighborhood or a poor Italian neighborhood, they bus minorities in,
Hmm.
black folks, and put them in public housing on that. And the funniest part is, who do you think paid for the public housing that destroyed the community? The community.
And they weren't consulted before it was brought in either.
No. It's like Tucker always says, they don't care what you think. This isn't a republic. It's not a democracy.
I mean, it's just so bizarre. I don't understand. Now, this is not for the one for the one person who's watching this and think that we're saying like that black people are inherently criminals and like no, you missed the point. When you put a it's like in prison when you can have a bunch of people who don't really know a lot about being criminals. They're in there in prison for some petty reason. Surround them with a bunch of other people who have been lifelong criminals and are very good at it. They come out of prison and they know a lot more about being criminals. The mentality of the ghetto, it really is kind of a virus. And when you concentrate people in these public housing developments that are full of people that are in very similar circumstances, they tend to contaminate each other with a toxic mentality, a mentality of victimhood, a mentality of like, well, fuck them, like let's just do whatever. Not to say nothing of gangs and just casual criminality. Because I mean, like, yes, all poor communities have the potential, and all poor communities have examples of criminality, but there is something different. I mean, that statistic that people love and hate to talk about, how like, a very small number of the
12% of the
population,
population.
yeah, a very small percent of the population, but commits a very high number of the crime, the serious crimes like murder and robbery and just terrible stuff. And again, this isn't to say that when you're born this way that you're going to be that way.
Well, can I interject?
Please.
Number one, let me just first off start by saying that if you think that we're saying that all black people are violent savages, then this probably isn't for you anyway. You need to learn nuance. You need to learn. You need a broader worldview. I mean, you can't be so easy to. It's the same reason that. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Okay, can you see me? Hello? You muted me. Cats?
Oh, okay, that was weird. Can you hear me now?
Turn it way up.
Okay, can you hear me?
No, barely.
Okay, technical problems. Okay, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, so let me just, all right, so we'll do a, let me interject by saying that if you are one of these people that has no nuance in you, that is so brainwashed and closed down to facts and science and historic after modern example of everything we're saying, if you think we're saying that all black people are these moronic savages that, you know, walk through, malls and communities just raping, pillaging, and robbing, then this isn't for you to begin with. So I'm
And
not going
you've
to be
missed
one
the
of these people who says, "We're not saying all." I won't do that. I hate when people say, "I don't need to say
and
that." If you think that that's what I'm saying, then you're not listening. So why defend my point?
yeah, I like to put it out there just for the sake of saying it, just because if there is just as there's that one person who's stupid enough to think that we're saying that, there might
Well, no,
also be
I'm glad you said it, because it's like a cover your ass type of thing, because there are morons out there, and it does give us the cover of saying we're not saying that. What I'm saying is, I personally, we're just in a it's something Dennis Prager said, who's an Orthodox Jew. So before you say he's a fucking Nazi, he said I was on Tucker Thursday night, and Tucker was talking about all these people apologize for things, and Dennis Prager said I could never understand the man that these people that apologize for something that they know to be true that they say, because how could you live with yourself? Let me tell you this: race and IQ is the forbidden science. It's why books like this. Do you know to buy this book today? Oftentimes it costs over $100.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and let me show
What?
you this.
Is it out of print or something?
No, it's well, he was banned.
Wait, they don't sell it on Amazon anymore?
Look at who reviewed this book. David Horowitz, Front Page Magazine, Jesse Lee Peterson, Thomas Sowell has reviewed him. You have no idea. It's been a
Heavyweights.
smash hit.
Yeah.
Mainstream people, but now you're not allowed to even sell it on Amazon. And it's for the same reason, because race and IQ, talking about black crime, talking about demographic change, all of this is now such a taboo topic that you're not allowed to say it. And we have to apologize and explain ourselves just by bringing up a fact. Every race, every culture, white Irish and white German are very different. White Swedish people, Victor, and white hillbillies, Jay, are very different. Black people and Jews, very different. We're all very different. We all can bring something to the table. It's if you're going to tell me that there's not a correlation between the fact that Jewish people hold more Nobel Peace Prizes and we're this big on the population scale than any other group, and the entire NBA is like 96% black, isn't somehow inherent to the group, fine. But you're
But it's all
denying
cultural.
realities.
It's all environment, dude. Like
Yeah,
we
it's cultural.
Yeah, I mean if you had been raised like in a culture of basketball players, you would be a star basketball player and I
Yeah,
would be straight.
in my shul, my local synagogue, well, we did have a basketball team, but if we would have worked harder, I could have dunked on LeBron.
I would love to see the I, I would love to see
I'm
the
5'8".
I would love to see the intramural, or I should say intra-synagogue basketball league where different synagogues challenge each other to a
I thought you were
basketball game.
saying intramural league between like Compton and Israel, or not
Oh,
Israel, but like
oh
Crown
God!
Heights, New York.
I
That
mean
would
that.
be a good
Oh
game.
my. Would it be a game? I think it might be faster to just cut the other team's head off. I mean that would. Yeah, that's like watching the. I can't even think of a similar example. I mean that would it'd be funny. Well, no, it'd actually probably just be sad, really.
It would be sad. It would be sad.
It'd be incredibly sad.
And I know, and I just want everyone watching to know something, and this is true. This really is true. Katz right now is nervous, maybe even a little mad at me because I said an unspeakable truth.
I'm not mad at
But
you.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. It's an
Yeah,
unspeakable truth. But it is true.
yeah,
It is true what I'm saying.
I believe
Like,
so.
I'll give you another one. You have, okay, the Olympics. When Kenya joined the running games in the Olympics, they swept us so bad, they'd never even stepped foot in America. It wasn't cultural. Now, when the Russians and the Chinese joined figure skating, excuse me, in the Olympics, guess what? Two very systematic, very hardcore, you know, and it went along with their culture. These things, there are inherent traits. It doesn't mean everybody has them. For instance, They say Jews and what is it? What's the other? What's the Asian one? Is it Southeastern Asia? Southeastern
Southeast
Asia
Asians.
have the highest IQ. And I told someone that one time. They said, "Well, you don't have the highest IQ." Like, no, I'm a construction worker. No, I don't have the highest IQ. That's not what that means. It's in the aggregate. Just like physicality is not, it's not like every black guy can dunk a basketball,
Nope.
but a lot more of them can than we can.
It's
That's
I
what
think
it
a lot
is.
I think honestly a lot of it has to do with the fact that people really don't understand statistics like at all. Like they think they do. They think that it's easy and that they can look at a graph and understand everything.
I'm
But
listening. Keep talking. I'm just
nope.
plugging my phone in.
But the truth of the matter is most people have very little idea about how statistics work, how easy it is to misinterpret or to skew the data or to make a mistake or even without even going into the negatives, like how something can be statistically true that doesn't necessarily reflect what you would believe, like or what you would imagine. Like people for some reason have trouble understanding the fact that like yes, Jewish people and Southeast Asians have higher IQs on average and at the extreme ends, but that does not mean that all you are such a bad person, but that all Jewish people are Albert Einstein. Like, no, that's not true. It just means that the potential for an Albert Einstein is greater in the Jewish population than it is.
That's a perfect way to put it. And you know what else it is?
What?
This is what I found. There's two versions. Liberals, or not liberals, but leftists will not believe any of these statistics about black crime, uh, DNA, genetics,
Gender.
things like that, because it's racist, it's bigoted, it goes against their world belief. And white supremacists won't believe it because it means they're not supreme. And so, I'm just taking these two examples, but everyone
Broad, yeah.
doesn't want to believe any of this because it means that you may be inferior in a way that you don't want to be. Like, let's say you want to be the world's greatest athlete and you're not black. Number one, you still can be if you are. But number two, these things, they're stated facts. It doesn't matter how they make you feel. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. No one's attacking you. You need to use your own strengths and you need to overcome. Like all people have weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
genetically, from their race, from their culture, and from them individually.
And they have strengths too.
Exactly. And they need to learn to play to their strengths. But whining about how another culture does this better is it's how you it's how the ghettos feed themselves is through complaints and grievances.
So I'm
White
gonna
ghetto, black ghetto, it doesn't matter. It's how the poor of the world stay poor.
So, and I think a lot of people just don't understand. They think that they get too stuck in the idea that either it's all genetic or it's all nothing. Like a great example, like for instance, like no matter how like a person is never going a person's penis will always be the same size no matter how you feel about it, no matter how much you focus or talk about it or historics or genetics or whatever. Your penis will always be the same size. That does not mean that you cannot be a great lover or even a porn star if for whatever reason you wanted to. You can improve your body, you can improve your technique, but you will never no, but nothing will change the fact that if you have an average size small penis or whichever, that's just set. Biology has given you certain limits, but you can supplement those limits yourself. You have to choose to do that, though. You have to work at that. Like you
And
could
that's
just say,
why what's my motto?
uh, "Be the big, be the big dick energy you want to be." I think.
Be the big dick energy you want to see in the world.
That you want to see in the world. Yes.
But
Well,
the dick thing is the perfect. You always you are one of the all time great analogy people. I'm telling you, your analogies are as relatable as someone. Tim Pool, I think, has some of the best analogies because they're so simple, but they're so informative and poignant. You have the best analogies, but the thing about the dick analogy is most people that watch these political videos or videos on topics like this are men. And the dick thing is a huge thing for men.
Yes, it
Men
is.
think about their penises a lot, their size, their ability to stay hard, their ability to get hard, their ability to last. Men think about their dicks, all men.
Hmm.
And there's probably no better analogy to race than your dick. Your dick is your dick, period. It's the perfect analogy. You can't change it. What you can do is learn the strengths of what you have. Like, let's say you have a big dick, but you don't get hard very well, or things like this. You learn to work with what you have, and the whole concept of race, for some reason, somewhere about the late '90s, we were just told we're not allowed to study race, IQ, things in terms of that, and we started burning books and banning books like this one, like Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, things like this. Banned books, the Bell Curve by Charles Murray. These things, instead of looking at them and maybe fixing them, instead, we just say,
For
diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. And don't even
Das ist
think about the
verboten.
fact that diversity, in a lot of cases, when not studied and figured out, is decimating our country.
You know, there is never a reason to not know something. And there is no subject that should not be studied. Not the ways that you study things are important. What you do with the information is important. But not knowing something is almost never the answer. I mean, there are some subjects that are perhaps just not useful. Like I can't even. Well, you know what though? I can't even really think of an example.
I can't either.
Like for instance,
I was
pedophiles,
thinking that
disgusting, disgusting people, disgusting acts. The thing is, we know almost nothing about them. Not really, because our immediate reaction to them is so visceral and so just like what the fuck? Like we basically want to either kill them, lock them up, um, and for the things that they've done, it's understandable. My my response to pedophiles has always been like, well, you know what? Because everyone immediately goes to like, we should just kill them or put them on an island or lock them all up. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have nieces. If I found out that someone did something to them, that person would be chopped up, minced up, and I they would never find the body ever. But speaking broadly, we really need to study these people. We need to understand what the hell is wrong with these people. Like we need to dissect their brains, we need to break down their genome, we need to find a vaccine, we need to do something. But it's an area where we don't know anything because you know, we have such a primal response to it that we won't even entertain the idea that more information is needed because we find the information disgusting, and rightfully so. And I think that liberals are having a similar reaction to anything to do with diversity and racial IQs. Like they find the idea so abhorrent, so disgusting that they don't even want to know about it. They just want to forget the whole thing.
this is what I'm talking about. That is like I literally just said. That is just the most brilliant analogy. It really is. It, there are some really dark and horrible subjects and pedophilia is the best, most extreme example because and it's visceral. You just immediately go to shoot him in his fucking dick and then torture him and then kill
Hmm.
him. Instead of saying, well, what happened? How can we make sure this doesn't happen? Because instead of taking that momentary, glory in
Stepping back.
destroying this creature, you can study it and say, wait a minute, there might be more to this, that we can prevent it from happening again so that we don't have to shoot another guy in the dick, chop his head off, and throw him into the ocean.
I mean, how amazing would it be if we found out that pedophilia was caused by like some sort of like partially hereditary brain lesion that could be detected at birth and removed?
Well, not to get
It's
all right.
not.
So
I don't think it is.
I
But
hate to ruin your best analogy of the week and kind of your off subject, but it's still on subject. I have a friend on Twitter who I believe you're friends with, and I'm not going to say his name, but he is the biggest all he talks about is anti-pedophilia,
Hmm.
and but he has one of those anime avatars.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at his likes, and this is gonna get, I've wanted to post this for a long time. Not about him, just in general about this anime stuff. If you look at the pictures he likes a lot of anime porn.
Oh, hentai.
Yeah, but well, I don't
Is it
know.
hentai or lolly?
I don't know that. I don't know what that means.
I'll
I know
have to
what
explain this
hentai
all
is.
to you
It's
one time.
cartoon porn.
What literally means pervert, but yeah,
What does hentai?
hentai.
Yes.
Yeah, the Japanese are very direct in their labels.
But a lot of these people, they'll rage against pedophiles, but all they jerk off to are girls who are purposely made to look like they're 9 years old getting fucked by like 40-foot monster dicks.
Yeah, they're really into tentacles. I don't understand it.
But even not tentacles, like even just really large men, like little like girls, like tiny little girls. Have you ever? I mean, you have to have seen some of this.
Uh, Once or twice. It's
Well,
not
yeah,
really my
I get
thing.
it. That's
Yeah,
just your taste. We can all
yeah,
rest assured that this isn't Cat's preferred porn, but they watch little girl cartoon porn. How is that any better?
not really. I mean, like
Just
it's.
because you draw the little girl instead of fucking. I mean,
I mean, like, and this is a whole another subject, which again we should maybe have a video about, where it's like abstract representation versus. I mean, like,
right,
I'm not going to
but
be upset.
mentally, what's the difference? Why are
Yeah,
you
but
attracted to them?
well, I mean, and yeah, like I said, this is a whole thing that we really should devote
Right. All
an
right. All right.
episode
All right.
to. But I think this was really good. I think that this is as good a place as any to call it. Otherwise, we'll just go on and on and on. Any final thoughts before we end it and build up for next week?
Yes. I think that there were segments of this. Katz and I just started doing this. This is none of this is obviously none of this is scripted. We'll
Not even
talk
close.
for a second with our scatterbrains and say this is a topic. Let's try it. But I think that there were segments of this that were fantastic, and I'm really excited to see them. And that don't be offended. I mean, there's going to be things that we'll talk about that you'll hate, and things that we'll talk about that you love. And I also want to apologize to Katz because I totally took him down the road of demographic change, which I threaten to do every week, but I
One of these
usually
days,
spare him.
we'll have an episode where we don't talk about demographics. just, just one, because it's
I
not my
swear
favorite
next week.
subject. It's not
I'll
my
put it
favorite.
on Maga T Dog.
Okay. All right, everyone. Comment below. Please share this video because YouTube is going to, assuming they don't delete my channel outright, this is never going to get promoted. So please like, subscribe, share this video, even if because you hate it, like just, share it and, leave some comments. Engage with us. We will talk to you. We are
Tell
very,
Media Matters about us.
no, please don't do that. I don't want to talk to
No,
media
do that
matters.
because we didn't say anything that could really get us kicked off. And when you do Media Matters, like when they find out, when leftists tell on us to Media Matters, what they'll do is they'll post it all over Media Matters, and then blue check liberals will post our video out, and right wingers will be like, "Oh wait, I really like that." So it's free. It's free publicity.
It is true. So yeah,
Hi, George Soros.
do what you're gonna do. All right, everyone. This has been our Catskay. This has been Kaggot. Jupiter signing off. Love you all. See you next week.